Greetings and welcome to another edition of 15 Minutes of Flame. I'm Robert Phoenix, and I'm just about ready to get the YouTube side of this going, and we are off. What's happening out there? There it is. There's the 3, 2, 1, and hitting record. What's going on? Broadcasting to you live from South Central Austin, Texas. It is the 31st of May. Today is Walt Whitman's birthday. Maybe I'll read some Whitman later in the show today. One of my favorite poets. Yes, he has Illuminati roots and Freemasonic connections. Walt Whitman was all of that, but he also happens to be, I think, the greatest bard in the history of the United States. Maybe not the English language, but he's close. He's real close. So happy birthday, Walt. And this is also Marilyn Monroe's birthday. Yes, the 31st. And a shout out to my friend, good friend, dear friend, Tova in San Francisco. Also her birthday as well. What's going on out there? I know you don't listen, and it's okay. It's all right. But there are those who do listen. And for those of you who are here and your ears are open, your mind is open, your heart is awake, welcome to another edition of 15 Minutes of Flame. So let's get right into it today. We're going to do just a little bit of astrology, which is what we're doing now at the onset of every show. So today we're just going to go right into the sun and the moon and Mercury. Of course, the sun is at 10 degrees. Gemini, it's now moved into the Libra decan. So a lot of the information and communication that people will be going through and experiencing has to do with what relationship, because that's what the Libra decan is. It's about relationship, communication, relating with one another. In the first decan of Gemini, it is about communication and relating to self and how others reflect who we are internally. With Libra, it's about how others reflect who we are externally. One-to-one relationships. When it gets to the Aquarian decan, it reflects who we are collectively. And Gemini is all about reflection. It's all about reflection. Sometimes you feel you're in a hall of mirrors when we're in the month of Gemini. And some of that has to do with today's show, which is, I think, kind of a bit of a holdover from yesterday's show, The Echo Chamber, which I got a lot of really good response on. The moon is in Leo, 28 degrees. And guess what, boys and girls? That moon is conjunct Donald Trump's ascendant. So let's see what goes on with him today. He's been on a roll lately. He's taking on Germany and Merkel. Trump is many things. Indomitable has to be one of those things. I mean, let's think about this. Whether you like the guy or not, and he is deeply divisive. There's never been a more divisive president in the history of the United States. But you have to admit, he's been dragged through a ton of shit, right? I mean, this guy's gone through everything from the primaries to the public lynchings that basically occur every day. And he just keeps on being Donald Trump. I mean, if there's a spiritual lesson in here for each and every one of us, it's that, right? And some people say, well, it's all about hubris and it's all about pride. And of course, he has to keep going and he has to keep doubling down on the ego, because if he doesn't do that, then who is he? What is he? Well, maybe that's part of it. But I'm telling you, man, there is a spiritual lesson in there, and that spiritual lesson is about persistence, and it's about endurance. And this guy, whether you like him or not, whether you agree with his policies and his crazy cast of characters, including his satanic son-in-law, you got to tip your hat to him and say, this guy is kind of made of steel. But we'll see what happens over the course of the summer. And certainly when we hit that American eclipse on the 21st of August, which is going to happen right in his ascendant, we'll see what the future has in store for Donald Trump. Well, today the moon is in Leo and it's right in his ascendant. And let's see what the Donald busts out on Twitter today. He had a kind of an epic Twitter day yesterday where he took on Angela Merkel. And it's all about trade deficit, and it's all about paying NATO. What he didn't hit Merkel about, though, was refugees. And bringing in the refugees and basically ruining Germany, because that's what's happening. The amount of refugees they're getting is staggering. I think they're getting 15,000 refugees a day. Think about that. It's enormous. It's just it's an invasion. It's not a refugee crisis. It's an invasion. Mercury is in Taurus at 19 degrees. So we moved out of that Mercury Moon square yesterday. Boy, that was intense. Communicating, over-communicating, trying to break through barriers of the heart, barriers of the mind. So maybe you had your own version of that. I know I did yesterday. And Venus is at 24 Aries. That hot Venus, man, it seems like it's been in Aries, Taurus, Aries for quite a long time. Well, it kind of has been since it went retrograde, and it's been moving fairly slowly. We've got about 6 more degrees left of Venus in Aries, and that intensity around relating will kind of abate, and we might be able to slow down a little bit. Stop and smell the roses. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. And then, of course, we have Mars in Gemini. That's going to go into Taurus very soon, too. So we're going to get a bit of Taurus relief from, Mars will go into Cancer, not Taurus. I apologize. I caught myself there. Mars going to Cancer, high degrees of sensitivity. More sensitivity coming our way. So let's get into today's show, so now that we've done a bit of the astrological weather. Somebody sent me an article today. Beverly sent this to me. And it is called theeventchronicle.com /metaphysics, galactic people, coming secret space program, blah, 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 blah. And so what this is all about is a compendium of articles. Let me see if I can go back and actually find the piece here, which shouldn't be that hard. All I have to do is just click and it will pop open for me. Here it comes in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There it is. So let me read the headline. And I'm going to talk today about how this is not a good thing. It's not a good thing. But it's something that we have to go through. So the headline of the article is More People Coming Out Against Secret Space Program Disclosure from Corey Goode. And it's what it is, it's a compendium of articles and posts. We have Dr. Alfred Weber, Stephen Greer, Christine Anderson, Bill Ryan, Daniel List, Cliff High, James Rank, Shane the Ruiner, White Hat, Dark Hat, Randy Moggins. And basically what this person, what he's done is he's taken what's out there in the Cliff High realm, in the Randy Moggins realm, in this area where people are kind of going after Corey and David Wilcock. And I'm going to do something a little different today. I am not a big David Wilcock guy. I never have been. His predictions are almost always wrong and off. He is a synthesizer of information, other people's work, and that's okay. I mean, as long as you can put an interesting spin on it, break it down, give it to people in ways that maybe might be more digestible, like he did that with the raw material. I mean, he's kind of, David is a bright guy, but I'm not sure he's a completely original thinker in a lot of ways. But I just, if you're going to go and put yourself out on the line, be accurate. Make some predictions that actually give you some validity. Now, it's commonly known that David's first book, he didn't write. He didn't write it. I know his publisher. This is public. This is public material. This is not private material. His publisher has stated, and it was a whole series of blog posts that took place when his publisher, Richard Grossinger, this is all part of the public domain, went to Hawaii and spent some time with David Allen Wolfe and David Wilcock and that whole scene going on there. on Hawaii. They had their farm, and they were living the hippie dream out there. And he confronted David about the book and the writing of the book. And David admitted he didn't write the book. He did not write his first book. Now, he may have written every single book after that. I don't know, but I know for a fact he didn't write the first one. And you can sue me for slander if you want, or you can suggest that perhaps I would be an object of slander, which somebody on Facebook did yesterday, which was very strange. It was like I was getting threats. I was getting threats from somebody who had been a long time sort of, person in my little community over on Facebook, because she was emotionally and spiritually dedicated to supporting David and Corey. And that's fine. If you've got your people out there, and people, for whatever reason, whether it's astrological or psychological, and they represent a part of who you are, and you've attached to them, it's that's your prerogative. But like yesterday, what I was talking about with gurus, 99.9% of the time they're going to let you down because they're human, right? They're human. Everybody's human. So anyway, I got into this piece with this woman on Facebook, and she was like, basically saying, "Hey, you better watch it because you can get sued." I said, "Well, I'm not slandering these guys. I'm reporting. You know what I'm doing? I'm reporting on what's happening. And I'm just telling you what I know. And I'm not anybody that's, I have a relationship with Gaia, but if Gaia is the sun, I'm probably Uranus, okay? That's how close to Gaia I am. I go there maybe once every couple months, and I do my thing, and I leave. I used to have a much closer relationship with Gaia, a much closer relationship with Jay Widener. He was on my show a number of times, and I really like Jay. Jay's a smart guy. He's one of the smartest guys you'll ever meet. And of course, he's part of this mix as well. Anyway, what I'm trying to do today is I'm going to try to take, I wouldn't say I'm taking Corey and David's side, but I'm going to go through this list of detractors. And I'm going to, based on what I know about them, I'm going to share their shortcomings. And this is not in defense of Corey and David. This is just sort of, let's look at who's calling the kettle black. Okay, the first one is Alfred Weber. Now, I've had Alfred Weber on my show. However, I've always been dubious about Alfred Weber. And he got into his own thing, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. It was with Kevin, what's his name? The advocate for the Inuit children. I always forget his last name. But Alfred got into some weird stuff with him. And I've always wondered, where does Alfred get his money? How does he continue to do his thing? And then you look at Alfred, and you look at his connections with the UN and John Lindsay's office. And Alfred Weber is sort of a countercultural establishment guy. Now, I'm not saying that Alfred Weber is a disinfo agent, but there are people that will. Okay? So here we have Alfred Weber. And if you rattle around his closet enough, you'll find skeletons. Okay? You will find skeletons. Dr. Stephen Greer. Is there anybody more strange than Stephen Greer? I mean, that guy is very unusual. From his physique to his looks to his 4 bodyguards that follow him around at Contact in the Desert. And I've heard stories about Stephen Greer, and they're not warm and fuzzy stories. And he's another guy that's at the top of the pyramid, sort of, funneling information. If you do another search on Stephen Greer and you go into the closet, you'll find skeletons. You'll find them. He's, a couple of years ago, it was back, it was 2000 and, I think it was 2006. There was a woman who was doing this global activation event, and she was Canadian, and Stephen Greer was promoting her, and it just, there's stuff there. And you don't have to dig too deeply with Stephen Greer. He's a very polarizing figure. Very polarizing. And he's coming out against them. Well, okay, that's interesting. So what is his agenda? Like, does he want to control the information? Is this infighting inside the echo chamber of truth? But you just look at the top of that list, Alfred Weber and Stephen Greer, and there are question marks around them. If you look at them and who they're related to and who they're connected with and where they get their funds and resources and money, right? Christine Anderson, I don't know anything about Christine Anderson. I can't speak to her. So we'll go to the next person on the list, Bill Ryan. Bill Ryan is another controversial figure. Project Avalon, Project Camelot. Who spawned all these people? Right? Who spawned them all? Well, Bill Ryan was involved in it. Bill Ryan and Carrie Cassidy. And Carrie's another person in the truth movement who has red flags all over her. For a number of different reasons. So you have Bill and Carrie who did their thing and they were connected, and they created a lot of these people. They created David Wilcock. He was Carrie Cassidy's lap boy. He was always on those Project Avalon videos, either being interviewed or as being part of the interview. So they helped launch David Wilcock. And if indeed David does have ties to the military-industrial complex or the CIA, and whether they're overt or covert, right? If they're there, then Bill Ryan and Carrie Cassidy are enablers. And they put out, the thing about Carrie Cassidy and Bill Ryan, if you go back to the golden era of Project Avalon and Project Camelot, whatever epic in history they were channeling, golden era of history they were channeling, a lot of the people they brought on there were kind of dubious. And they never, ever used any kind of cross-examination techniques and tried to, call them out on certain things. One of the people that they had on there, which I found to be like almost entirely ridiculous, was this guy Dan Burrish. And I know people that really like Dan Burrish, and he's got a lot of good. Oh man, there's a truth teller. There's a truth teller. He was on the inside, and it's like I would listen to his stories about J-Rods and his grandfather, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And I'm a pretty good read of people and timbre and tone and authenticity and validity, and I can tell you that guy was not in his body 90% of the time. Well, was he violated by some secret space alien? No, I think he was shaky. I think his story was shaky. I think he was shaky, and yet here's another character that was promoted by Project Camelot, Project Avalon, without any really kind of criticism. I would call it criticism, but there was no discernment. There was no check and balance. There was no trying to really understand the root or source material. Where's the proof? Where's the proof? Where's the proof? It was always just kind of like letting it kind of come out and bleh, and then Carrie would get in her 15 minutes of fame, with whoever it is she was interviewing. So, and I know that there are people that have some issues with Bill Ryan. And I guess he's down in Ecuador now, and he's working on some project down there. So, again, now we've got Weber, Greer, Bill Ryan, 3 out of the top 4. They've got yellow flags next to them. Okay. Next name, Daniel List, dark journalist. I know nothing about this guy. He seems to get all of the sort of right people, right topics, very, very slick in terms of how his videos are produced. And that's great. Good on him. I don't know anything about him. I have no comment. Let's go to the next name. Cliff High. Cliff High is an interesting guy. We all know Cliff High is, but again, yesterday's show, Cliff has not been Mr. Perfect in terms of predictions. He hasn't. I mean, he's been predicting massive spikes in gold for years, and they've never come to the surface. They've never come to fruition. No, that hasn't happened. And there was a period where it was around 2012 that he was involved with this crazy woman from Sacramento, I think, who was saying she was Pleiadian. And I mean, there was a strange kind of period there with Cliff. And he appeared to kind of go over the cliff. And him and his buddy Ur, who started their predicting business, George Ur, they had a parting of the ways. And again, you have a parting of the ways of people doesn't make you a bad person. Doesn't make you somebody who has some kind of inability to be consistent and tell the truth. No, it doesn't make that. It's just people have breakups and relationships end. This is the way it is. So I'm not drawing any kind of judgment or trying to cast any aspersion onto Cliff based on that breakup. But he's not perfect. I'm telling you, he's not perfect. Is he better than most? Does he have credibility? I would say yes. I would say that Cliff has probably, out of this list so far, and I don't know anything about Christine Anderson, and I certainly don't know much about Daniel List, but out of the list so far, I'd say Cliff has the most credibility. And he has, I think, the better track record. Okay. Next person, James Rink. Okay, James Rink is this guy who has been on the inside of the Super Soldier program. He says he was one of them, and you know, the whole Super Soldier program, it's like, whatever. You know, I mean, I think it exists, right? I think it's real. I think there are people, Max Spears clearly had something, you know, going on in a very interesting, very powerful way, and there's a number of them. There's a number of these guys, Duncan O'Finnian, and you know, there's some interesting stories that come out of the Super Soldier realm, and James Rink has been kind of in the center of that for a while now. Him and the bases guy, and he does interviews, and he's part of the Super Soldier network. But this guy is odd too. He sells this black cube that he makes, and he sells it for like $3,000. It's like it's supposed to be like this multi-dimensional kind of magical box. So the guy sells a magical box for about $3,000, and I know somebody that was kind of getting involved with James Rink from a counseling perspective. Let's put it that way. And the stories I got back were very weird. Like there was all kinds of weird phenomena associated with him and dark, kind of dark energy. And it's like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to help this guy? It just seems like it's getting stranger and stranger and stranger, So, again, here's another dubious character that is coming out against David and Corey. So, checklist: Alfred Weber, Stephen Greer, Bill Ryan, Cliff High, with kind of and we all go through patches where we're not always on our game. It's just the way it is. When you're an artist and you're making a record, sometimes you make a shitty record. Hopefully you get to make more records. Back around 2012, Cliff was making shitty records. Just the way it is. James Rink, questionable. Sorry, it's coming out of my mouth. Shane the Ruiner, I know nothing about. White Hat, Dark Hat. I read the White Hat, Dark Hat stuff years ago and basically got sucked in for about 2 weeks and then I was done. And this guy, Inerky, says the Event Chronicle does not endorse this character. Then we come to Randy. And Randy, to me, is irreproachable. Randy has no agenda. I know Randy. I know Randy's personal life, not to the extent that I'm chummy, but I'll tell you right now, what you see with Randy is what you get with Randy. Randy is who Randy is. And this is not his first rodeo. He started to, remember when he was doing the Zen Gardener stuff, Randy was like, okay, we got to, Randy's like the watchdog of the truther community, and it needs it. The truther community needs a watchdog because people they're like in the desert. They're hungry and they're thirsty and they're really on their hands and knees, kind of crawling towards an oasis of truth. And a lot of times it's a mirage. And Randy has been, I think, very effective in pointing out the illusions, the shimmering heat projection in the desert of the mind. That's what Randy does. And he does a damn good job of it. So Randy, he passes the test. So out of this group, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Out of that 10, 1, 2, 3, 4.5. 4.5 have some red flags. And for Cliff, it's just a periodic red flag. It's not a career red flag. I just have to point it out for the sake of consistency, right? So this is where the trouble, this is where we're at now. You've got a group of people who are essentially saying, hey, look, this is bad for whatever movement. It could be the disclosure movement for the secret space program. It could be the disclosure movement for pedophilia, and it could be the disclosure movement for voter fraud. I mean, it's all part of the same spectrum, and we're in this Saturn and Sagittarius period. And remember, when we get into astrology, it's not just the sign that we're sort of rummaging around in, it's the opposite sign that is firing that aspect. So if we look at the opposition of Sagittarius, what do we have? We have Gemini. And we have duality, and we have polarity, and we have the splitting apart of a, for lack of a better term, collective and celestial atom. I mean, that's what's driving this Saturn and Sagittarius grind for the truth. And is it a case of when we go down this path and we take the truth hammer and we hit it, are we creating more duality as a result of it? I mean, it's our thought, right? Because what happens is that there is a polarization that occurs. And clearly we can see this in the relationship between the left and the right at a much higher political level. You take the truth hammer, which is, in this case, let's use WikiLeaks, and you hit it, and what does the left do? It becomes more polarized. The left doesn't sit back and say, wow, this is really interesting. Look at all the information we got. Hillary fucked Bernie over, and there was a massive gameplay at a high level with the DNC, and we need to overhaul the DNC. We need to take control of our own party. We need to stand up and support Bernie Sanders. We need to encourage Bernie Sanders to get off of his ass and run for president, even if it's as a third party. We need to denounce Hillary. We need to sue the DNC. Hey, how about that? During the electoral process, maybe they could have sued, but no, they didn't do that. They didn't do that. What it did is it forced them deeper and deeper and deeper into their corner, which was, we're going to stand by you and stand by this no matter what. This is divisive. This is whatever it is. So then on the other side, the Republican side or the alt-right side or even the truth side are like, wow, look at this, man. This is it. This is the biggest smoking gun we've ever seen. I mean, if you think about it and you go back into the electoral process, nothing like that has ever happened before. Nothing. We saw so many things in this past election, and it just ripped by us. And we haven't even caught our breath because we're in the Trump circus now. But nothing has ever occurred like that ever before in an electoral process. It was mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. Am I right? So, what they didn't do, though, well, the right. Now, the right. Let me go back to the right. And the right and the truthers and the alt-right and whatever. They were able to say, look at this. Here it is. So we have one group over here that is banging their fists, saying, look, this is what we've been waiting for. And the other group Well, it's because it doesn't support their agenda. Like if it had been Trump, if all that stuff had come out about Trump, of course they would do that. And would the other group say, yeah, you're right, he's screwed, we need to reform this? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not that into the right or the Republican Party. It's never been my thing. I'm into the truth, and I'm not sure if they could handle the truth, but maybe they could. But you see what I'm saying? The left didn't do that. So what we have is WikiLeaks, drops this big giant bomb in the middle of the room, and everybody scatters. You go to one side and the other side. What the people on the left should have done theoretically is, you know what, there's something stinks here. And they should have come out full guns blazing against Hillary, the DNC, and the corruption of their own party and the Clinton Foundation, but they couldn't, they wouldn't, they can't, they won't. And this is what's being expurgated and explicitly shown to us with the Saturn-Sagittarius transit, because Gemini's on the backside, and we're dealing with duality. But the duality has never been greater. Never been greater. Can truth unite people? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. A lot of people can't handle the truth. I think they want it at some level where it's convenient, if it matches up to their paradigm. And I think there are other people out there who really want the truth, and they will work at it and get to it no matter what. Remember the analogy of the really great meal versus the crappy synthetic hamburger meal. So yes, there are some people who are starving for the truth out there, but a lot of people, they can't, to use a catchphrase from a film, they can't handle it, and so they go deeper. This person on Facebook, classic example, she burrowed deeper into her connection and her relationship to David and Corey, because there's loyalty there. And I get loyalty. Loyalty is a good thing. We live in a world that sometimes isn't that loyal. And loyalty is a kind of a lost art. So I get it, and I actually applaud that. But at some point, it also becomes a diminishing reward. You know what I mean? Especially if it's involved in a lost cause. And I'm not sure if this thing with David and Corey is in a lost cause bucket. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens and how all this unfolds over the course of the next few weeks, few months, how much momentum it gets, what Gaia plans to do. Now, Alfred Weber leveled some serious charges against the founder of Gaia, Jirka Rysavy. And if you haven't read this, I'll just read it to you. Split in the exopolitics community. There's also another more fundamental split between the Satanists and the light workers, or whatever that is, which commenters seem in denial of in their facile projections. This post is about the deep penetration of Jirka Rysavy, a Polish abusive capitalist with satanic connections from Poland, into a hostile takeover of Gaia TV and Contact in the Desert. Rysavy comes from dubious Polish satanic money connections, where in 2016, Max Spears was assassinated in satanic fashion in Warsaw 2016, just prior to the October 2016 keynote address I gave at the Warsaw Truth Conference remotely for safety. On May 4th, 2017, I learned another Warsaw Truth presenter now has brain cancer, all from the same Polish archonic satanic circles that have taken over Gaia TV, Contact in the Desert, and now the Ancient Aliens cruise. Okay. I'm playing devil's advocate here. Where's the proof? Where's the proof? And I'm not sticking up for Jirka. Jirka kicked me to the curb when I was doing my show at Gaia. I did a show on Obama, and that was it. I was done. Okay, so I'm not standing up for Jirka. But I'm saying, where's the proof? Who are the satanic connections? The Polish satanic connections. It reminds me of the Big Lebowski, the existentialists. The existentialists. Where are they? Who are they? Okay, from dubious Polish satanic money, really. Okay, where's that money? Who's? I'll tell you what I know about Yurka. Yurka started a business. Well, here's what happened. Yurka is apparently a polymath. He's incredibly bright when it comes to numbers. He's a big numbers guy. So what Yurka did is he took over. He didn't really take it over. He got involved in a business that was connected to office supplies. See, Gaia has its roots in office supplies, but you didn't know that. So he took over. He didn't take it over. He got involved. He became like an accountant for a business that was engaged in office supplies. And what he did is he was able to turn this business around and make a significant amount of how do I say this, return. But there was a time at this point in time, the people who owned this business, who were in kind of arrears, wanted to sell it and get out of it. And Yurka figured out how to buy the business. Now, maybe this is the satanic Polish money connection. I don't know. But when somebody has a business that's failing and they've got debt and they've got people coming out of it at them, they're willing to offload that to anybody who'll take it on. And Yurka took this on, and he started to work with the books and do all kinds of stuff. And he worked with the product supply and the chain supply and all that downstream stuff. And he began to make a profit. And so he began to pay people back. Now, it's my understanding that this business became the office club. And they got into this kind of box lot mentality around selling office supplies. And the office club, I believe, became either Staples or one of the big office supply stores. And that's when Yurka sold it. But he built this thing up from essentially nothing. Okay, and I don't care who you are, being able to build something up from nothing is kind of a big deal. And you've seen people like let's use a truther piece. David Icke, the People's Voice. How much money was pumped into the People's Voice? A lot. And what came out of the People's Voice? Richie Allen, maybe? Right there. Big fat zero. And there was like, oh, where'd the money go? And there was a whole kind of brouhaha about Ike and the People's Voice. It was just a cash grab and a ripoff and on and on and on. And they had money. Yurka came into this thing. And again, I'm not defending Yurka. I'm just giving you his background. He came in with nothing and he turned nothing into something. And I'm telling you right now, that is not easy to do. And you may have the guiding hand of Satan on your right shoulder, but if you're not listening to Satan and carrying out his orders and doing what you're supposed to do, it's probably not going to happen. And I'm not saying that happened. I'm just giving you Alfred's kind of version of events here. So Yurka then flipped his kind of office supply fortune into Gaia. And he did the yoga stuff. He did the yoga mats and all. He got into yoga. And he got into yoga at just the right time. Because when it came, Gaia's yoga wear and all their yoga supplies, they were like the Nike of yoga. Am I right? And all the yoga videos. And then he realized that there was a big opening in terms of a portal, a media network, where you could get all kinds of different information. The mystery school, the online mystery school, which is what Gaia was trying to become. And they, of course, did a deal with Conscious Media Network and brought Regina in. And there is aggregation, which takes place when a business starts off, and Regina became a huge player at Gaia. She was already a huge player in her own right with Conscious Media Network. She did great work. Excellent stuff. But what I'm not getting, and look, like I said, I did a 25 series of astrology, 25 show series on astrology at Gaia, and I got released from my contract because didn't like my politics. So I'm not defending Yurka. Truth be told, I'd still like to be at Gaia. I still like to be doing my shows. It was really good money, and it was good. I had fun, and I bonded with the crew, and it was a really great experience. And there's some super nice people that work there, young people, people with families and kids, and there's a deep infrastructure. So nothing is what it seems all the time. But he goes on to say here that these Polish archonic satanic forces acting through Yurka Rysave, Polish owner of Gaia, financier of Contact in the Desert, says the two exopolitics flim-flam presenters at Gaia TV, presented by the Satanist-connected owner, reportedly presenting under false names. Corey Goode is a false name. David Wilcock is a false stage name. These are flim-flam artists. Okay. What's David? Again, I'm just playing sort of devil's advocate here. Okay, where's Corey Goode's real name? Most people know it's James Corey. But if he's really good, he would say James Corey in quotes. What's David Wilcock's real name? Well, he has to wait till the second paragraph. And David Wilcock, a.k.a. Eric L. Who's Eric L.? I don't know who Eric L. is. I mean, Eric L.? Eric L. what? So we have to... look, I'm playing devil's advocate here. That's all I'm doing. Because I think it's important. We have to maintain some level of looking at who these other people are. And I am not defending Corey and David, trust me. But I am defending a process. And we can't just willy-nilly, jerk our necks and say, okay, yeah, these guys are saying this, and look at who's saying it. And why. And if they are making claims, where's the evidence? I think this piece by Alfred is incredibly irresponsible. Incredibly irresponsible. I'm sorry. And it may be true. There may be elements of truth in it. I'm not saying there aren't. But what he's actually coming out and laying into with Yurka is that borders on slander. And I'll tell you right now, Yurka's got a lot of money. And Alfred better be prepared to lawyer up. That's all I'm saying. And again, I'm not defending Yurka. Please, don't get me wrong. This is not coming to defense of Yurka Rysave. I'm just looking at it from how I see it from this perspective. And from this perspective, I think we're done with today. I think we've reached our maximum truth limit for the allotted 45 minutes, actually 15 minutes, which becomes 30, and then slowly creeps into 40. I'm over the truth limit for today. I'll have to dip in and buy some more truth credits before tomorrow's show, which happens 24 hours from today. So you know the deal. You know the drill. Use your head. Use your heart to stay open. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I need another sip of coffee here. Austin's finest. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix, and you've been listening to 15 Minutes of Flame.